بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا الخلق أجمعين الصادق الأمين محمد بن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we deal with some concepts related to comparative literature. We need to understand what is the meaning of comparative literature. Okay, and how can we deal with comparison and also with literature. If we start, we have this introduction about literature as a concept, as a genre of arts. Always we say literature contains several genres or types or sorts like drama, novel, poetry, criticism, comparison, short story, and many others. These are what we call genres of literature. But literature itself is a genre of arts. The wide, okay, the big, what we call frame for arts. Here we have an essay, chapter, or part of the book about what is literature by Thierry Egerton, a philosopher in the same field related to literature and comparison also. Start with this introduction. But before we read and analyze, we need to focus somehow on the title, comparative literature. We study the course called comparative literature, and also we have the first title, the first session with the same title, comparative literature. Comparative is an adjective, literature is a noun. So the key word of the title, which we need to realize, which we need to understand, is what is literature. From literature, we need to go through what? Through comparison. Okay, the keyword is literature. The other connecting or related element to literature is comparison. So what is comparative literature? Let's go first dealing with the concept of literature, the genre of literature. What is it? And how can we connect it with what? With the comparison or with to be a cause, a title, a dimension called comparative literature. In this introduction, we can say, starting, as Egerton says, if there is such a thing called comparative literature as literary theory, then it would seem obvious or clear that there is something called literature. Again, after realizing the concept comparative literature, we have another concept, literary theory. So it is a theory, an approach, a technique, a philosophy. Okay, this philosophy is related to literature, connected by or to literature. It would seem obvious that there is something called literature. So, which is the theory of? We need to understand or to realize that the point should be understood as the theory of literature. Literary theory can be reflected to mean the main way, the key word, as we mentioned, is what? Is literature. So it is the theory of literature. Literary theory, the theory of literature. As Egerton says, we can begin then by raising the question. Before we read, I needed to realize the importance of starting any philosophy, any lesson, any explanation through what? Through a question. In order to appeal, explain, assess, attract, there must be, or as the philosophers believe, raising a question, starting with a question. That the listeners like you should interact, should participate, But what kind of participation? What is interaction? Starting first individually by what? By thinking about the question. Everyone should try to answer the question in his or in her mind. Okay? Then, if there is a sort of debate later, the issue, the matter, the topic, the subject will be somehow understandable, easy. So raising the question, what is literature? Starting debates, discussions about the answer of what is literature. There have been various attempts to define literature. If we ask how many definitions for literature, is it one? Must be many. Since we say there have been various attempts, by whom? Not by everybody, not by every person, by every related scholar, okay, in the field, to define or to bring a picture or to depict literature. You, again, not everyone, but you, those who are related or interested in the field, like you, because you are what? Scholars studying literature in different kinds, different types of genres. You can define it. For example, again, for example means it is just one example. There might be others, as imaginative writing in the sense of fiction. Fiction writing, which is not literally true. What is that? If we stand a little with the word true, connected with the reality, if it is true, completely true, maybe you will get out somehow out of what? Of literature. Because literature is mixed within reality and idealism, realism and idealism, with real events, facts, and symbolism. Symbolism is connected with imagination. So these elements sometimes should not be what we call isolated from literature, but also should not be completely fictitious, right? We will understand that step by step after we get deeper, realizing those elements. So fiction writing. Fiction can mean imaginative, it can mean fantasy, and also it can mean what? Story. For using it as a story, it can be what? Can be true, but maybe not totally true. Like some stories, I can ask you, write a story telling us about what did you do from the early morning until the late evening. Everyone will explain the procedures or the events or the actions, of course differently, but some of you will go through what? Through imaginative ideas, not to express the ideas free, totally true, or literal. Okay, but even the briefest reflection on what people commonly include under the heading of literature suggests that this will not do, will not be like that, will not be what? Either this or that, will be true or fantasy or imaginative. No, sometimes it can be this, it can be that. So again, according to Eagleton, 17th century English literature for this period of time, the 17th century, includes Shakespeare, Sylvester, Marvell, and Milton. All the works of these people, of these what we call literary figures, great literary figures, estimated as what? As part of literature. But it also stretches to the essays of Francis Bacon, the sermons of John Donne, Byron's spiritual spiritual autobiography, and whatever it was that Sir Thomas Browne wrote. All these are called or estimated as literature. It means in this case that there are some other writings by other great people not included in literature of the period. What is the period? The 17th century. Again, this idea might not be totally true. These are what we call thoughts, philosophy, theories. By whom? By a great philosopher, yes, but this great philosopher might sometimes we don't agree with him, with Thierry Egerton. Okay, we take what is suitable for us. We believe in what is interesting for us. It might even at a bench to be taken to encompasses Hobbes, Lethentan, or Clarendon's History of the Rebellion. The French 17th century literature contains also, along with Camille's and Racine's maxims, which mean the proverbs, okay, philosophies, the funeral of poets as speeches, treatises on poetry, what kind of projects of writing on poetry by Toulouse, Madame de Sévigné's letters to her daughters, and the philosophy of Descartes and Pascal. These are again related to the French, what we call 17th century, yes. So it is called literature. All these, who can say the historians, the literary, what you call interested people or related people to that. Moving to the 19th century, we have English literature. English literature usually includes Lamb, Charles Lamb, though not Bentham. Sometimes we can find in the writings of Bentham some beautiful passages, pieces, essays. They are really better than Lamb. But many critics, theorists, philosophers, they exclude Bentham from being, his writings, I mean, from being literature. Macaulay, but not Marx. Karl Marx. Macaulay, his writing is called literature, but the writing of Marx are not. Mill, but not Darwin or Herbert Spencer. For Darwin, his theories, for a while in the beginning of the 20th century, made a revolution on psychology. Okay, when he wrote his theories about the genesis of humanity. And maybe you heard about this theory, which I don't know, which says that the human being, originally was a monkey and developed, improved to be like what he or she is or are now. Yeah. So some others, and now it seems to be what you call absurd theory. Okay, sort of what you call sakhafa in this book. For us, at least for us. For other people, not Muslims, we didn't know. Why for us it is a sort of absurd or absurdity? Because we know, as we understand, the starting of humanity as it is mentioned in the Holy Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not only words, it is words of Allah. And knowing the creation of humanity starting, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam by his hand from what we call from parts of this earth, and from Adam he subhanahu wa ta'ala created Abe. Okay, so Darwin wrote theories made the European 20th century, beginning of 20th century, a crazy like what you call movement. Okay. Here is a picture to tell about what the center of literature. That literature contains many huge number of elements, of aspects to be read, to be studied, to be understood, to be analyzed, to be assessed, to be evaluated, to be discussed or criticized. Many elements. Okay? And here is what we call a sort of a picture, grasping elements to understand. Okay. Going further, a distinction between fact and fiction. As we mentioned, that it is fiction writing or writings. Now we need to realize and understand what kind of fiction and what we have. The opposite of fiction, it is fact. Fact and fiction. There should be both of them in literature. We can find pieces in drama, in novel, in poetry, in short stories. Pieces are what are real, fact. Speaking about history, speaking about what you call epics. At the same time, we can find what fictional stories, even poems, imaginative poems. Okay, even they are telling something about someone, some place, some time. They bear both. They bear both. Okay. Reality and fictitious or fiction. For example, what is the example we can give about fact? Someone might write an epic about the revolution, about the Renaissance, revival, unification of Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, telling the story of the kingdoms, what we call unification, under the rule of King Abdulaziz, rahmatullah alayhi. So it is an epic. It is a novel, a drama, play. Is it fact or fiction? No, it is fact in this case, because this person, this writer, okay, should go with historical elements, but the style, the language, is what is literal. An epic, a long poem, a novel, a drama, or even pamphlets. Okay, like this. This is just an example. At the same time, there can be stories about any situation. You can imagine it yourself. Talking about, for example, okay, Hamlet of the 20th century. We know Hamlet, of course. You know Hamlet. Hamlet is a character, okay, in one of the plays of Shakespeare. When you say Hamlet of the 20th century, it can be a story, fictional story, fantasy story about the character Hamlet of Shakespeare, but in a modern perspective, modern notions. You realize, look how many aspects we have taken through what comparison between fact and fiction. Then seems unlikely to get us very far. Yeah, we are still revolving around the point, not least because the distinction itself is often a questionable one. Yes, under debate. It has been argued, for instance, that our own opposition between historical and artistic, sometimes when we speak about history, and to exclude it from being literature. Artistic, is it real or is it what? Fantasy. Okay. Historical truth, artistic truth doesn't apply at all to the early Icelandic sagas. Here the writer talks about what some folklorical stories called the sagas of Ireland, Iceland, I think, or Iceland, yeah, Icelandic. Okay, one of the what we call states combined United Kingdom. Among Ireland, England, Wales, Irish, Ireland, the Irish is the adjective. Okay, let's go on. In the English late 16th and early 17th centuries, the word novel, starting from here, seems to have been used among both true and fictional events. Yeah, we agree with that. There are novels, they are true. There are novels, they are fictitious, completely fantasy. Okay? And there are novels mixing between this and that. And even news reports were hardly to be considered factuals. Clear. Novels and newspapers were neither clearly factual nor clearly fictional, unless there is what we call documentation, real documentation, touchable recommendations, convincing, can be what? Real. Otherwise, it can be fiction. It depends. We can say that probably. Probability doesn't mean that it is 100% sure true or 100% sure what fiction or fantasy or imaginative. Our, those related people, sharp discriminations between these categories simply did not apply, making a sort of confusing not to take a decision. Okay, going to another theorist, again still dealing with the point according to whom, according to Eagleton. So Gibbon Undoe thought that he was writing what historical truth. If it is truth, historical, why not making them literary? They can, and for some others they didn't believe in that. And so perhaps the authors of Genesis, as we mentioned, but they are now read as fact by some and fictions by others. Convincing, persuasion. Is it documented? Is it accepted by the mind or by facts? We can say that it is real. No, the mind not accepting them can be what? Fictional. Going to another one. Newman certainly thought his theological meditations were true. His meditations were true, but for some others they can say that they are what? They are not true. They are fanciful. But they are now, for many readers of literature, they are what? Fictional. They are not real. Moreover, if literature includes much factual writings, it also excludes quite a lot of fiction. This is the natural element, natural aspect. Superman, Economic, and Mills, and Bacon, and Boone novels are what? Fiction, but not generally regarded as literature. Yeah. Why? Because they are not even not mixed with the reality. When you watch Superman, okay, or any other what you call legendary work, a novel or a drama like The Hobbit or even Harry Potter. So they are what? Fictional, fictitious, completely not. There is no mixing with reality to believe in them as literature. So they are what? They are excluded. And they, especially for Superman stories, and the similar things also, are certainly not literature. They are estimated, not literature. Okay, what is in red is important, that if literature is creative or imaginative writing, does this imply that history, philosophy, and natural science and uncreative and imaginative, if literature is creative or imaginative writing, does not imply that history, philosophy, and natural sciences are uncreative and unimaginative. What is that? When we say, for example, natural sciences, what is natural sciences? Natural sciences like what? Like the study of medicine, the study of engineering, the study of science, and chemistry, physics. These depends on theories, and these theories should be what should be dealt with what we call experiments. And these experiments are being done by specific, what we call components, specific materials. For example, just, Dr. Fulan has created what? Pepsi from salt. You know that salt is composed of sodium and I don't remember what, sodium and calcium with a specific measurements to make what? To make salt. Okay. This is real science. Okay, it is not a philosophy. But if you say that, yeah, from salt, this scientific person or scholar created Pepsi or cola or any sort of juice. It is what imaginative. So it is not accepted to be uncreative. Creatively to bring something rational, persuasive, like that. Perhaps one needs a different kind of approach to weather or altogether. Perhaps literature is definable not according to whether it is fictional or imaginative, but because, underline, it uses language in peculiar ways. Here's a point of view, still a perspective. We agree sometimes, we don't agree, doesn't matter. But it is what debatable point of view. On this theory, uses language in peculiar ways. Literature is a kind of writing, which, in the words of the Russian critic Jacobson or Roman Jacobson, we quote now, represents an organized violence committed on ordinary speech, mixing it with something reasonable and acceptable. What is it? Literature related to language and word. Yeah. So again, literature transforms and intensifies ordinary language, deviates systematically from everyday speech. Yeah, it should be different from everyday speech. Everyday speech doesn't show philosophy, doesn't show what you call creativity, right? It should be higher in estimation. If you approach me at bus, this is an example, at bus stop and murmur saying, I'm hearing for all, though still unvanished bird of quaintness, then I am instantly aware that I am in the presence of the literary. Can you find such a situation? We sit, okay, in the bus stop, waiting for the bus to move or to travel from a place to another. Can you find such a one? No. These words are higher in estimation. They are not everyday language, so you cannot find them in every aspect of life, everyday situation. Okay. Going to this point, this in fact was the definition of the literary advanced by the Russian formalists, a group of people to deal with the form, to be interested in the form, okay, who included in their rank Victor Chubisky, Roman Jacobson, Osip Prick, Yuri Tenurov, Boris Ichimbu or Ikimbu, and Tomaszewski, Boris Tomaszewski. All these are leaders of formalism. Sometimes, we can find difficulties in the names, a sort of lachbadation in the names, no problem. But what is this theory connected with the formalists? The formalist emerged in Russia in the years before the 1917s, I mean in the first 2 decades of the 20th century. Another movement is called Bolshevik, الثورة البلشفية, Bolshevik revolution, and flourished throughout the 20s, I mean after the formalists, until they were effectively silenced, means stopped by Stalinism, okay, led by Stalin, the dictator of former Soviet Union, Russian today, Stalin, وما أدراك ما Stalin. A militant polemical group of critics, they rejected the quasi-mystical symbolism or symbolist doctrines, which had influenced literary criticism before them. According to the nature of people, people sometimes in a phase of time, a decade, 2 decades, they believe in a theory. After a while, some other people to come, they refuse such theories mentioned by their predecessors, and they believe in something new, something maybe ancient. And in particular, a particular scientific spirit shifted the attention to the material reality of the literary text itself, instead of thinking about a certain philosophy, for example, about the writer. When we deal, for example, with a play by Shakespeare. Have you studied a play by Shakespeare? A play by Shakespeare? Yes. Okay. Who is Shakespeare? The one who wrote this great play or these great plays. For the formalist, doesn't matter. They don't care about the person. Okay? They don't care about the mind of about the person himself. They care about what is produced by this mind. About what? About the text, about the thought of the work. Mixing that with criticism. Criticism should dissociate art from mystery, to separate art in general, mystery, to separate art in general, and literature in particular from what? From mystery, from mysterious events. What is mystery? Legend, myth, fiction, fictitious. Okay? Not realism, idealism. And concern itself with how literary text actually work. So they put themselves on a concept, on a theory, on an element to go after. What is it? Believing. Do they believe or not? Does the mind believe in that or not? Another idea about literature, we can say that literature was not pseudo-religious or psychology or sociology. However, so again, this is the idea of Eagleton. We should go back to Eagleton because it doesn't sometimes refer to our own believing. Just we get ideas of others, then we formulate our believing. But a particular organization of language, excluding pseudo-religion, psychology, sociology, and focusing mostly on what? On the language. What else? It had its own specific laws. Yeah, because the language has its rules. Structures, yes. Devices, yes. Grammar, vocabulary, words, managing, which were to be studied in themselves, rather than reduced to something else, not to connect them with others, with psychology. Do we believe in that? Personally, I can say yes, I can say no. Not everything to exclude psychology and philosophy and religion from literature, because literature is part of life. As we always say, literature is a mirror of life in all its genres. poetry, drama, novel, short story, or whatever. So it is a mirror, or it is, yeah, a mirror, or they are mirrors of life in life. Okay? Again, the literary work was neither a vehicle of ideas or reflections, not just reflections, of social realities, nor the incarnation of some transcendental truth. It should be this and that. It was a material fact. Now look to the difference, starting with the fiction, now going back to the fact connected with material. The material fact whose functioning, job, duty could be analyzed rather as one could examine a machine. Yeah. It is and it was need of words because it depends on language, not of objects or feelings. Objects like science, feelings like imaginations and symbolism or images. And again, it was a mistake to see it as the expression of another mind. Connected with this mind also, Fulan, okay, has a thought, a specific thought. Should I apply his thought on his neighbor, on his next door sitting? No, of course no. Everyone has his own, what you call, thought and mind. For formalism was essentially the application of linguistics to study of literature. So, okay, good. To connect language with linguistics. Now we shift to another dimension, mixing between the language, pure language, and it's what you call mechanics, linguistics, the mechanics of language, to the study of literature. That literature depends on linguistics also. Okay, because linguistics is what is the mechanics of the language. And because the linguistics in question were of a formal kind. Formalism, for and formal. What else concerned, I mean, this linguistics, okay, or linguistics concerned with the structure of language? Yes, sure, rather than with what one might actually say. The formalism passed over the analysis of literary concern for the study of literature, for the study of literature called form. From this point appeared the formalism, where one might always be tempted into psychology or sociology. They exclude psychology and sociology from being what you call essential components for what? For literature. But personally, I believe that why not? I don't mind to have what you call even psychology or sociology or philosophy to be among the basis of literature. Here is the idea, the first idea about what is literature. For more points about what is literature, kindly go read more on the book, on the handout, okay, especially by Thierry Egerton. It is included in the handout, and also this one will be uploaded to the specific place on Rapid. Another point to realize, what is comparative literature? What is comparative literature? So now, going deeper, another point from just what is literature. Now we insert the concept of comparison. How is that? Comparative literature is an academic field dealing with the study of literature only? No. And cultural expression across linguistic, national, disciplinary boundaries. I feel that this definition is very interesting. Of course, it is not full, but it is understandable. Yeah, we believe in that to a great degree. Academic, yes, because it depends mostly on the scholarly searching among academics. Okay, what to deal with? To deal with study, like what you do, study literature, study of literature, and culture, life, representing life. Culture expression, again, expression means language, connected with the culture, and expression connected with language of life. Across linguistic, through linguistic boundaries, national boundaries, disciplinary boundaries also, using some dimensions, some elements like what? Like linguistic, like national, like disciplinary, national or international, because it is connected with what? With boundaries. To make a comparison between a literary work in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, okay, Jeddah, Riyadh, الشرقية, Mecca, Medina, Jazan, Taif, okay, Al-Khuba is what we call national, connected within the country, within the kingdom. It can be what? Regional, between Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Oman, any Gulf country or Arab countries. You can say Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You can say Iraq, Egypt, Algeria, okay, Algeria. All these are regional and also international. And this one, this definition, is satisfactory to give ideas about comparative literature from the beginning until the end. Let me take 5 minutes to finish it. Until we finish this part, at least to finish this part. Okay, comparative literature performs a role similar to that of the study of international relations. Why international relations? Because it deals with the relationship among nations, but works with languages. So we focus in literature on language and artistic traditions, so as to understand cultures from inside, while most frequently practiced with the works of different languages, like comparative literature, may also be performed on works of the same language among the Arab words, for example, if the works originated from different nations or cultures among which that language is spoken, either in the kingdom, for example, in the Arab wars, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Yes, the characteristically intercultural and transitional. Intercultural means going beyond the boundaries, okay, different countries, and transitional field of comparative literature concerned with what? With the relationship between literatures, not only literature, literatures, broadly defined, and other spheres. Spheres means countries, for example, of human activities, including history, politics, philosophy, art, and science. All these are what are included in the way of comparison. Unlike other forms of literary study, comparative literature places its emphasis on the interdisciplinary. This which we needed to understand. Interdisciplinary. It means international. Not only one field, not only one aspect, but different interdisciplinary analysis of social, cultural productions within the economy, political dynamics, cultural movements, historical shifts, religious differences, the urban, in all of these, international relations, like international relations, public policies, and the sciences, even the sciences to be what? To be realized. So again, comparative literature is the study of common features in the literature, cinema, the other forms of culture, production across national and regional boundaries, as I mentioned, across national and regional countries, from an intercultural to interdisciplinary and global perspectives. Okay. Today we live in a global society where language, literature, and cultures what intersect, interplay. Yeah, they are what interrelated, and that is why it is important to broaden our scope. Yeah, broaden our scope with knowledge, with experience, with understanding. Why? To understand the many diverse ways. Understand many diverse ways in which human beings perceive, realize, and relate to the world and each other. We offer courses in the literatures, not only literature, cultures, not only culture, of Arabia, Europe, and Americans, China, India, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and East or West, no problem, in Africa or any other country. In comparative literature classes, you will read works in translation. There should be translation. There should be translation because translation should transmit the language of people. I think here we should stop to finish it in the next session, inshallah ta'ala, because we have taken more than should be.